Welcome back, everyone, to what episode is this? Is it 7 now of Make Podcasting Great Again? I'm joined here with Mr. Jacob Katzenberg, a.k.a. Katzpom, to my left.
What up?
Unfortunately, Mr. Gavin Alexander, the beautiful co-host of this show, could not be here today, so we have no music and no seamless transitions, but the show must go on. So, Katz, did anything big happen this last week? I think there might have been some games.
Yeah, it's the first week of NFL football, first week of fantasy football. Excited to recap a really exhilarating week of fantasy football.
Well, it was more exhilarating for some of us than others, and you will see why after we share these scores.
Are you screen sharing them right now?
I got it.
Let's go.
Even with Gavin gone, Sam can still bring the action. So if we look at here today, we'll just start at the top, and you'll see the Nutville All-Stars, a.k.a. me, getting my own ass beat by my main rival, the Commissioner Eli Miller. As you can see at the top, it was rivalry week. And boy, It wasn't good for me now, was it?
No, I mean, really the highlight of that game, I would say DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler Murray hooked up for 2 touchdowns. So
yep,
I mean, when you get 2 combos to the forehead, that's going to be a tough.
I kind of knew that it was just going to be over as soon as I saw Kyler Murray threw that first touchdown to DeAndre, and then the second one was just absolutely a kick in the balls. I really in this last week, T. Higgins scored my only touchdown other than Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb, good work, good job this week, but everyone else, good gravy. What a bad week.
He only had 2 position players in double digits. I mean, Matt Ryan was as bad as I thought he would be. Terry McLaurin kind of laid a dud, had his quarterback leave the game. T. Higgins stepped up. Nick Chubb did well, but Robinson, that could be a scary situation going on in Jacksonville right now. It seems like he's not really.
Yeah, I know. That was
really winning the job, and
that was just disconcerting. Urban Meyer's an idiot. That's why we're going with DeAndre Swift this week, because at least Dan Campbell wants to run the ball, I think. Yeah. I don't know.
So I'd say Eli proved himself this week. I mean, even with his his first round pick on his team putting up a 3.9, still rallied. I mean, he had really good outings from really a lot of his guys outside of
David Montgomery was spectacular against a really good Rams defense, and TJ Hawkinson just soaked up a lot of targets. Kind of like me and you said, but Drew disagreed for whatever reason last week. So, congratulations to Eli. You beat my ass. Let's move on to the next game. And this is kind of a weirder rivalry. This is between Nick, who was first in the power rankings this last week, and Colton, who's kind of the perennial doormat. Sorry, Colton.
Yeah. I mean, this game was really – I think this was a game that Nick really did what we expected to, but I think his team, and it'll be addressed in the power rankings later, I think he's even better than we were expecting, which is scary.
Yeah, I mean, think about this. If you have DK Metcalf go for 12, that's just kind of an average performance. You're probably not anticipating, scoring a huge amount of points in a standard 14-man league. But, I mean, he got 18 from Antonio Brown. He got 13 from Miles Sanders. Christian McCaffrey didn't even have, his projected points. And then, lo and behold, there's Patrick Mahomes just doing Patrick Mahomes things. And suddenly you look up and Nick scored almost 20 points over his projection. And Colton played okay. 86 isn't a great score. You can win with 86, but he just had no chance.
No, yeah, I still feel good about Hitch's team, really. But I mean, if Nick is going to get productive, consistent play out of his flex, I mean, he had Antonio Brown right off the bat, put up a touchdown and 121 yards. So if he gets that every week, Nick's a very scary team because he has the consistency of Patrick Mahomes and Christian McCaffrey every week. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
And I would just say for Hitch, I would say, Justin Jefferson's going to be better. Tyler Lockett's going to be a little bit worse, but Justin Jefferson should be better. And Mark Andrews should be better. and Cortland Sutton with the Jerry Jeudy injury should be better. And I think there's a lot of room for growth for Hitch's team. I think he just kind of ran into the buzzsaw today.
Yeah.
So it just is what it is. Up next, we got the Battle of the Dads. Loser takes the other's kid. Or kids if it's for Dave. And we saw Cody go down. The new dad couldn't beat the old dad. Dave barely escapes with maybe a little bit of Monday Night Magic for Cody, just falling up a little bit short. This is a good one, Katz. Only about a 6 difference.
Yeah, I mean, this one was definitely barn burner. Came down to the wire. I mean, Josh Jacobs, he was very, very close to winning it for Nick, or not for Nick, for Cody. But also had, I mean, Josh Allen's kind of put up a dud for Cody. I mean, I wish he could have there. He probably wishes he could have that game back, but Calvin Ridley also put up a dud.
Aaron Jones really put up a dud.
96 will win you a lot of games. So
oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, 96 can win it for you. And I mean, I would be almost encouraged if I was Cody. Josh Allen probably put up one of his lesser games, and Aaron Jones just didn't have a chance after the Packers got blown out. So I mean, Calvin Ridley also just didn't have a chance either because the Falcons played so bad. So I mean, you take a little bit of the edge off of, a 16 from Josh Jacobs and a 13 from Marvin Jones Jr. and a 21 from Adam Thielen, but you give that back to, your Calvin Ridley, your Aaron Jones, and those guys play a little bit closer to their projections. I mean, you got a lot of potential. I kind of feel that way with Cody and Hitch. And Dave's team pretty much did what we expected him to do. Obviously, it wasn't in the way that we thought it would, but if you look at the projected points, 102.72, 102.85. So, I mean, his team did what we thought they were going to do, and Cody's just kind of underperformed this week.
Yeah, I mean, it all started with Dak Prescott on Thursday Night Football. I mean, people thought that Dak Prescott might start a little bit hesitant, a little bit scared to move and whatnot. I mean, he still put up 403 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, only 1 INT, looked great. Put up 27 to start the day. So,
and I mean, that's against the Bucs defense, and the Bucs defense is considered one of the best, most talented.
Exactly. And he's got just a shit ton of volume too with, Eckler's going to get a ton of catches out of the backfield, ton of high volume. Also, pretty sure Chris Carson was one of the few backs to get over 20 carries too. So, yeah, and just a ton of volume out of his back.
We'll have to see how that Chris Carson trend continues. Seattle was in pretty good control of that game for the most part. So we'll see what happens when Seattle gets in a little bit of a tougher game. But, Dave got good points from his quarterback and then pretty even production across the board. He didn't even really get much out of Stephon Diggs for this, and he still put up 102. So, I mean,
Pittsburgh defense just completely locked down Buffalo. So I don't think anyone was really expecting that. But Pittsburgh, I mean, they're one of the best defenses in the NFL. Anytime you get Pittsburgh defense early in the season before the offense is really getting a rhythm, it's going to be a good matchup for the defense. So,
oh yeah. And I mean, we've been saying every other year, it's Dave year. Right now, scheduled for a Dave year. You never know. Dave get his name on that trophy. So let's move on to the next one. This is kind of the one that we alluded to back with our TCam interview. This is Kyler versus TCam, kind of one of the bitterest rivalries, if you can say that it isn't. But this one is really kind of the staple of the rivalry in the league. And TCam came out on top. And to add an extra flair to this, TCam not only is the reigning champion in the league, he's also the unofficial champion of the league, which essentially means that it's hard to explain. We'll explain it another time. It works like a WWE championship belt, and he's got it, and he defended it. TCam is still the unofficial champion of the league. So what'd you make of this game? I think I see one thing that, kind of made a huge difference.
Yeah. So, I mean, well, first off, Amari Cooper started the whole, he was the first player to play in this game, and Amari Cooper had a awesome night. I mean, put up 25.9 against probably the strongest defense in the NFL, at least from last year. But even had really, I mean, Kyler, I bet he's just really kicking himself for starting Ronald Jones, who put up the minus 0.1 or minus 0.6 there, pretty much fumbled, and now he's back in Bruce Arians' doghouse. Pretty much didn't play the rest of the game. So Kyler's going to be searching for a running back, that's for sure.
So there's a report that Ronald Jones is out of the doghouse and gonna start next week. Do you believe that at all or nah?
Probably not. By start, do you mean like come in the first series and then
Leonard Fournette
the rest of the way?
that.
Like, no, that's cap.
Yeah, I would say it's a very encouraging sign for Kyler. I mean, I don't think you can count on Amari Cooper getting 25-9 every game, and I really don't think you can count on Jalen Reagor even getting 10 or Jamar Chase getting 15. But I mean, you're gonna get something better than minus 0.6 next week from your running back.
I think it is. I think it's really encouraging knowing that Jamar Chase seems like he's going to be ready to play like right off the bat. Like, I mean, he had a really bad preseason. I was skeptical about even picking him up in fantasy football, like across all leagues, just after how bad his preseason was. But I mean, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, just everything seemed to change once Joe Burrow got took over the quarterback for him.
Since he got rolling, and I mean, I hope the best for Jamar Chase. Not against me whenever I play Kyler, but just kind of in a general sense. I really hope Jamar Chase is good.
I mean, this is a game that really, if you're Kyler, you just go, I mean, you got to just admit TCam's team, I mean, he's the champion for a reason. He put up 116 right off the bat. So
the champ is here. I mean, I don't want to sell TCam short, but there's really not a lot to say. I mean, he's the champ, and there's a reason he's the champ, and he hasn't lost a game in ages. If you go back to last season, he's only lost one game since the beginning of last year. So in a 365-day span, he's lost one fantasy game in this league. So, I mean, he is the toughest customer out there. There's really not a lot you can say. He's reached the point where, he can kind of start whoever he wants, pick up whoever he wants, and you just got to think, man, there goes TCam. Let's see what happens. It'll probably work. It's kind of like that Bill Belichick back in his, heyday with Tom Brady type of thing. So let's move on to the next one. And, oh, there you are. This is the pillow fight of the week where Jacob Katzenberg won with 80.8 points and probably scored about the fifth least points in the league. I can't talk too much trash because I still scored less than you.
But I mean, anytime your team can put up as many duds as we did and walk out with a win, I mean, you sit there and fucking take it. I mean, I don't know what the fuck you want me to say, but
I don't blame you. I know you've been catching grief for ranking your team second in the power rankings and then kind of going out there and pulling your pud. But I don't know. I think a win's a win. At the end of the day, you'll worry about points if it actually matters.
Yeah. Sorry, I wasn't expecting fucking Kyle Shanahan to just bench his best receiver. So I don't.
Kyle Shanahan, dude, I can't do it with Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan, it's like Dante Pettis all over again, except this time it's like with a first round guy instead of a second round guy. Kyle Shanahan like always has to be the smartest dude in the room, and then he has to like prove like why he's so smart.
Yeah, he's
It's
a fucking
like the dumbest shit.
He's made the playoffs one time in his 4-year NFL coaching career, and he acts like he's God's gift to football. So
he really does. It's like, oh, I'm Andy Reid. I'm the best. I'm the best offensive mind with my one Super Bowl appearance.
And I'm sure we'll get to. I mean, actually, you can just point to Davis's team right now. Just went ahead and just benched the running back he drafted to. Didn't even got a DNP. Didn't even suit up. So we'll see what happens with their backfield moving forward, because apparently Elijah Mitchell's now the lead back. So
so it's story time here for everyone who doesn't know, and I'll show the bench real quick. So when Davis woke up on the morning of Sunday, he had Trey Sermon in his lineup, and Trey Sermon was inactive. So, Davis then put Zach Moss in his starting lineup because he couldn't put Tony Pollard in the lineup because he'd already played on Thursday. So he put Zach Moss in his starting lineup, and then about 10 minutes later, Zach Moss was inactive, or it was one or the other. It was either, I think it was actually Zach Moss first, and then Trey Sermon. Regardless, Davis didn't have a second starting running back about an hour before the season started. So he actually made a trade with Gavin, and he traded like a 6th-round pick for Tevin Coleman. And
I got some stuff to say. I have trade analysis in my
oh yes, we won't go any further on that. If you're Davis, there's nowhere to go but up, I guess. I mean, you put up 53 points. It can't get worse than Aaron Rodgers going for less than 2. It really just can't be worse than Elijah Moore going for negative 0.3. Like, it can't be worse than getting 5-1 out of your running back duo. There's really there's nowhere to go.
What really sticks out from Davis's side is the 1.3 from Rodgers, the reigning MVP. I mean, you've got to expect like a 20-piece like the rest of the season, really. Like, I mean, that's already an 18-point or 19-point drop off. So I mean, it was also really encouraging. Just I knew after that game, like I was gonna win. Like I didn't have to sweat too much, and my team really only put up 80 points. This was like a floor game from Dalvin Cook. This is literally, I think this is the worst game Dalvin Cook has had on my team outside of injuries.
Yeah. So, and I mean, you only got 13-3-8 out of Herbert. Dalvin Cook was pretty secured.
I was the better of the 2 bad teams this week. I mean, we move on.
Yep, we move. And I mean, wins are wins. At the end of the day, if it gets you into the playoffs, then who cares? And, hopefully Davis and you put up a little bit better of a fight in week 14. Less of a pillow. So next, we actually get to the biggest blowout of the week, which is kind of just a surprise. We have Gavin, who's regarded as one of the better managers in the league, and he just got mollywopped by Colby. Colby's team had just an absolutely electric week. He put up the 2nd most points behind Nick, and he's kind of picking up right off where he started when he finished 2nd last year, and there were really no weak spots here. Ironically, Derrick Henry was the weak man.
No, I mean, definitely. I mean, we mentioned Ayuk before, but I mean, with Ayuk out of the lineup, it seemed like Deebo Samuel was just wide receiver 1, put up 189 receiving yards, a touchdown, 22 points. I don't think he's going to get that kind of production every week out of Ayuk, but Ayuk, if he's putting up those numbers with the rest of Colby's team, that's going to be pretty crazy. I mean,
it's pretty easy to see Deebo and AJ Brown's stats flipped. It's pretty easy to see Derrick Henry and Joe Mixon's stats flipped. I would be less, bullish on Hollywood Brown putting up 13 a lot, and I would be less bullish. I'd be less bullish on Tom Brady getting 27. I think he's really more of a 20-point quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, but still, quarterback. Anytime you have a quarterback going against Dallas defense, I mean, you're sitting pretty.
It's a start. You got to do it.
I get that this week with freaking Herbert. So.
Well, congratulations. You should have Herbert this week, then, shouldn't you?
Yeah.
I mean, for Colby, I don't think there's a whole lot to say. I think his team played really well. I mean, obviously, some of the scoring is going to fall off. You can't put up 132 every week. I think the highest in our league ever.
And also, I'm just gonna clear the air here. I'm gonna spoil a little bit of the power rankings. Colby is still the 14th ranked tight end. I don't want to hear shit about it either. Gerald Everett caught his only 2 targets of the game, and one of them was a touchdown. Like, that's not sustainable.
That's like some Bob Tanyan stuff. And maybe it might work out. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see over the course of the season. If his team's going to play like this, it really doesn't matter who he puts out tight end. He could put up corpse, which, by the way,
this is also funny. Najee Harris was the only running back to play every snap of his offense's game, and still only put up 4.9. That is ridiculous volume for a dude to put up 4.9.
God, eventually, the thing is, that's the nice part about Najee Harris is he's going to get that volume because Tomlin just does not believe in running back by committee. But
as much of the snaps he was in, it was kind of concerning seeing him not really that involved in the offense, though.
Yeah, I would say that's concerning. I think that's kind of a product of them having Juju and Deontay and Claypool, and then they got Ebron too. I think it'll come along later. I think just at some point, though, he gets so much volume, he's just going to eventually back his way into averaging about 10 points.
You would think.
You know what I mean? You would think he's just going to be able to back himself into being at least an RB2. That might not be what Gavin needs, considering that he's his top running back. Chase Edmonds obviously could end up being a really good running back this year.
Is this the last matchup?
I think it's the second to last one.
Oh no, we still got the the roommate bowl.
Yeah. So it's just some last thoughts on Gavin too. Ryan Tannehill sucked. Devontae Adams sucked. Allen Robinson sucked. Najee Harris had a lot of volume but sucked. Zach Ertz is a corpse. And Deontay Johnson got hurt during the game because Gavin's team is always fucking hurt. It was just a tough week for Gavin. He was worse than I was even. So I don't know. There's really not a lot to say for Gav. His team should get better. He's got guys. Let's head to the last matchup. Oh, God, yes. We have – if Kyler and TCam's rivalry is the most heated rivalry, this is definitely the loudest rivalry in all of our league. These two guys cannot shut up yelling at each other, and we love them for it. So we had Drew taking the Lawrence Classic away from Fox behind 16.5 from Darren Waller and 16.8 from Cooper Kupp. I got to ask, you were there for the Darren Waller performance. What was it like down there?
Well, I wasn't at their place, but I mean, Darren Waller, I'm
at the Cooper Kupp.
He won the game.
My mistake.
Drew spent early draft capital on Darren Waller, and apparently that was his guy from the start. I think he took him at pick 23 or so.
Something like that. I was pissed at him. I wanted him so bad.
Yeah, he wanted him bad, but he paid off huge dividends. Scored a touchdown on Monday Night Football to win the game. But it is funny because we had the battle of the top two tight ends here who put up 19 and 16. And you look at the rest of your lineup and you're like, okay. But Kupp also Drew bet he hit a crazy bet. He bet $300 on Cooper Kupp to catch a touchdown on Sunday Night Football.
Well, then the next day he bet $200 on Waller to catch a touchdown. He won 550 bones on his two fantasy guys. What a fucking mad lad that guy is.
Yeah, but right off the bat, I got to point it out. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, was it really fucking worth it?
Dude, Clyde
didn't look much better from last year. Didn't look a lot better. Didn't look like that much more involvement in the offense.
I think I would be concerned. This is kind of one. I know it's really easy to overreact, and I try not to overreact too much to week one. That's one that I would be concerned with.
Yeah.
Because you would think that you would see a little bit more. 7-2 isn't bad if it's your running back too.
Yeah. And each of these two teams lost a valuable player for him. Drew lost his RB2, and Raheem Mostert very predictably lost Raheem Mostert.
It took no time at all.
Now the Jerry Jeudy shit's actually sad because he looked like he was taking over as the wide receiver one there.
Dude, tell me about it. I have him in a dynasty league that's devastating.
Yeah, he was getting all of the targets too, and then obviously left the game with an injury. Find out that did he tear something?
No, he only has an ankle. He has a high ankle sprain. He'll be out 4 to 6 weeks on IR right now for it.
Yeah, but
so he escaped. Fox will at least have Jerry Jeudy back.
We'll see if Fox plays the waiting game because this is a team that's got to get going. It's got to
Yeah.
get going.
I
So
I think if they're smart, I was a Michael Thomas owner last year. If they're smart, they need to like pump the brakes, make sure he's back healthy. You know what I mean?
yep.
It's not worth, not worth it.
Like a sprained ankle, boy, ain't nothing to play with.
But yeah, if you look at the rest of this, it was pretty much just Cooper Kupp and Darren Waller versus Travis Kelce, and I mean that's kind of all it was. It was a good shouting match. It was fun to watch. It was fun to watch San Francisco return a pick six. We were there watching that game with those two, and Drew was very happy about it.
All right.
But I think that's it for the recap. So I think now it's time to go into the power rankings, Mr. Katzenberg. So let me stop my share right here. And you got it, Mr. Katzpom.
All right. So Katzpom week 2. Week 1, definitely a lot of movement throughout the power rankings, first of all. But we're gonna start off with trade analysis here. We had 2 trades go down that I want to talk about. I guess I'll kind of hit on Fox's really fast. Fox, I mean, obviously needed a running back, picks up Damian Harris, did give away his best receiver, and now you're looking at it. Now it's tough to look at Fox's trade before the injury, but now that he lost Jerry Jeudy on top of that too, now it's like, ooh, he really gave up a lot.
It hurts.
It does hurt. But I mean, Damian Harris, also one of the few backs to have, he had 23 carries this week. So, I mean, he might have just gotten a running back, I'd say high end RB2.
Yeah,
So,
borderline 1 type of guy. So, I mean, it might be worth, he got Julio Jones back in it too for AJ Brown.
But next, here we go. Next, we have Gavin and Austin. So we mentioned it earlier, but Austin woke up in the morning, found out that his presumed running back 2 was just going to get sat. Immediately panics, scrambling to find a running back option. Gavin gets rid of a player he wasn't even going to use, gets an 8th round pick for it. Just Austin, we got to stay patient. If you know your team's going to have a rough week like that, I would have just bit the bullet and moved on. Like, you don't want to give up draft capital this early for a player who has such a low floor, such a low floor, even a low ceiling, I think.
My whole thing is like, Tevin Coleman's like a stopgap guy until Michael Carter like takes over that backfield, but it's still the Jets backfield. Like, how productive is the Jets backfield going to be in a non-PPR format?
Exactly.
Like, you're looking at like probably a lead back running for about 5 or 6 touchdowns and like maybe 750, 800 yards, like at best. Yeah. Like, it's just not. I would have rather just, I mean, if you're going to drop like Zach Moss, for instance, just go grab like James White, because he has a role. I know James White's more of a PPR guy, but there's got to just be someone on waivers that's worth more than just an 8th to a 10th. Like, it just, I mean, the PSA, Gavin does this to everybody. He trades some player he doesn't want for a pick upgrade all the time, so he doesn't have to drop them.
And it turns out Davis didn't want him. He already dropped him. He's not even on Davis's team anymore.
Oh my God, he already did drop him?
Yeah, he's gone.
I didn't realize that. Didn't he drop him for Elijah Mitchell though?
Yep. We'll talk about the Elijah Mitchell thing a little bit later.
Okay, that's not as bad. It would have been hard for me to justify picking up Elijah Mitchell before the game. So let's just pretend for Austin's sake he traded 8th for a 10th for Elijah Mitchell, and now he's got someone in San Francisco's back.
Well, it changes everything going on. The next trade that we had, Austin and Eli. This is kind of a blockbuster trade, I think. I mean, bigger names for sure. Yep. Eli gets Keenan Allen, the best, probably I'd say the best asset in the trade. What I don't like about it is that Eli gave up a 6th round pick. I think it's a little early to be giving up that kind of draft capital.
That's a lot of capital. I agree.
I really do. Now, initially when I saw this, it's like, oh no, Austin, don't give up your best receiver now. But then this is kind of, after thinking about it, I think this is kind of a trade he needed to do. Well, first and foremost, you take a 6th round pick this early if you're Austin. If you're really concerned about your team, you take a 6th round pick. And I mean, you're getting 2 players who will start for you. You're getting Juju. Say what you want about Juju, low ceiling, also pretty high floor. I mean, he's serviceable starter. He's going to start for Austin's team. And then Melvin Gordon, at least until Javonte Williams really takes over the backfield, Melvin Gordon is playable. So,
and who knows? And like the thing for Austin is, well, I talked to Eli a little bit about the Keenan trade, and Eli's philosophy has always been yards over touchdowns. He wants guys who are going to get guaranteed targets, guaranteed yards at wide receiver. And I mean, that's what Keenan Allen is for Justin Herbert. So I completely understand like why this is a guy he's going to target, because Keenan Allen has a really high floor for all intents and purposes.
And really, I mean, the only thing that makes it a B- is that it's a 6th round pick in week 1. Like, I think it's a little early to be doing that. But I mean, at the end of the day, though, if you look at Eli's roster top to bottom, it's looking a lot better now.
Yeah. I mean, when I talked to him about it, I said, hey man, like last week I look at your team and I like it, but the wide receiver room's a little like shaky. Now you look at it and it's like, man, that last flex spot's kind of it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like that's kind of the big problem area is the last flex spot. But I mean, when you're like debating your wide receiver 3, you have a good team.
Yeah. But let's get into the power rankings here. This next slide. First of all, a little bit of movement here. I think the big things that stick out. My running back room took a bit of a hit.
Mine did too.
Let's see here. Eli's team just overall got a lot better. Yeah, I mean, well, I think let's actually go through the power rankings too, and then we'll come back to this slide.
Okay.
So, like, here are the power rankings for week 2. Bam. So, first off, starting at the top, look at Nick's composite score from last week, and it'll really make sense. But I think Nick's team is even better than we were leading on for it to.
I completely agree. Like, it's one thing when we first looked at it in paper, and we're like, oh yeah, Nick's team's like really good, and then we saw him put up 134 like pretty easily. It was like, oh my god, Nick's team is really good.
I know Nick's team, or not Nick's team. Who was it last year? TCam's team got close to. This might be the highest score in Katzpom history. Don't quote me on that.
I know TCam's team was really good. We'd have to dig through the old records. We can discuss. What do you know what the actual highest composite score is, just off rip?
I don't think we've seen anything over 12. So
wow.
Yeah. So
Nick's team is very good.
Yeah, but Nick's team very good. Eli, the biggest mover, or second biggest mover, I guess, from last week. Eli proved me wrong. I'll admit it. I'm a man. I can admit it. But Eli, I mean, anytime you can get that kind of production out of the rest of his lineup and have his first round draft pick kind of lay an egg, I'm feeling pretty good. And Kyler Murray, I'm just going to say it. He's a dark horse candidate for, I don't even know if he's a dark horse.
Dude, he's going to win MVP. Eli never has a bad quarterback. It's incredible. He drafted Mahomes the first year that Mahomes started, and then he traded for Lamar like halfway through Lamar's MVP season, and then he drafted Josh Allen last year before he broke out. It's ridiculous. Eli, like if Eli drafts a quarterback in fantasy, you should put your house on them, like winning MVP or getting like some sort of award.
Yeah, and then Colby proved a lot of people wrong. I had him all the way down to 9 to start. Moved up 6, had the best week. Really, I think he could be coming down a little bit if Debo falls off a little bit. I think Debo Samuel's kind of the X factor on that team right now. Mm-hmm. But Sam, right around where you were. I mean, laid an egg, but I mean, there's a lot of guys on your team I still feel good about. I wouldn't panic.
My only concern about my team now is instead of having, Chubb and Robinson and Swift and Gus Edwards. Now it's just those top three. I personally thought Gus Edwards was going to end up being my running back 2 by the end of the year, but
Yeah.
it's a
But
shame. Rip Gus.
Yeah, and I mean, we just saw it on Thursday night. But we're recording this on Thursday night right after the game. Terry McLaurin went off. Terry McLaurin's supposed to be one of the best fantasy receivers this year. Like, we knew he was going to bounce back.
Shout out to Taylor Heineke, because all he does is look for Terry McLaurin. That's all I ask. Ryan Fitzpatrick, get better soon when you come back past Terry McLaurin, for God's sake.
I mean, and then, I mean, if you're looking at this like playoff picture wise, former champ still right in there, fell off 1 point. But I mean, he's still right up there. I think his composite score is actually like pretty much the same. So like,
I think it is. I think him falling 1 spot is really just more of Eli and Colby really punching it home and putting up great weeks. TCam just put up a really good week. So
yeah. Now this one kind of might surprise people. I don't know why Hitch is always kind of a polarizing topic when talking about Katzpom, just because I always think his team is like pretty good. Like Justin Jefferson's going to bounce back. Jonathan Taylor should come around. I really feel pretty good about Hitch's team, honestly, but he is also betting at Fisher has some pretty shitty luck sometimes.
Hitch is the most unlucky person in fantasy in this league.
And then I'm actually taking the biggest hit this week.
Some self-reflection.
Really, I mean, this team really needs a wide receiver too, and I was expecting that to be Ayuk, but apparently fucking Kyle Shanahan is being an asshole. But yeah, Kyle Pitts also, or no, that's my other league. Let's see. Robbie Anderson was my only receiver to catch a touchdown this week, so it's not good.
Yeah. Kyle Pitts
I still like the volume I got out of. I mean, this is like I said earlier. This is a 4 game for Dalvin Cook. Like Dalvin Cook will get you 14 every week. Even Justin Herbert, I'll feel good about moving forward. But yeah, I know I still feel fine about my team. It's just not as powerful as I thought it was going to be. Really, just I think the big difference here is I was expecting Antonio Gibson to be like running back, like low end RB1, high end RB2 territory. Now it looks like he's kind of lower end RB2, lower to mid RB2 territory. And
no offense, I never really got the hype on Antonio Gibson, but I don't know. That's easy to say in hindsight.
But yeah, that's pretty much all we have to say. The biggest mover, the bottom really just kind of the same teams, just moved around a little bit. The biggest composite score wise, 3.94 from Austin. Yeah, that's really almost.
You know what? Austin really took a bold move. Spoilers, but Thursday Night Football, he took a bold move, benched first round draft pick Saquon Barkley. I hope it works out for him. It hopefully won't get any worse.
But I also want to point out a couple things that I noticed. Look at I'm going to go back to the other slide. Look at Nick's position rankings right now, just on Nick's team. So right over here, top ranked quarterback, top ranked running backs, third ranked wide receiver, still the 7th ranked tight end, 5th defense. I mean, defense is really matchup dependent too. If you got good matchups and a good defense, you're going to be fine. And kicker, 4th ranked kicker, even like what
there's no weakness. He's upper half in everything. Oh my God.
Yeah. And even
shout out to good.
But there's that. I also wanted to point out, even with Saquon Barkley on his team, Austin's where is it? I gotta find it.
It's right there. 13th.
Yeah, 13th ranked running back room. Did pick up Elijah Mitchell. I want to talk about Elijah Mitchell a little bit. That might have, I don't know if I want to say saved the season for Austin, but I don't really know how to feel about Elijah Mitchell just because that running back room seems pretty sporadic, and I don't know if I can trust.
He's going to have to flip a coin, assuming JaMychal Hasty doesn't steal a lot of carries, and then they have that one other running back that's on IR. I can't remember his name right now. Who?
Jeff Wilson's on IR.
Yep, that's it. So assuming that those two don't steal anything, he at least has the two workhorse guys that should be the workhorses for Kyle Shanahan. But oh boy, who knows what'll happen with that room? If he flips a coin and flips it right, then he'll have a running back one. If he flips it wrong, he'll probably get like a 2-pointer out of some guy.
Yeah, but I mean that's pretty much it. Other highlights, I'd say Matt Stafford shot up in the rankings as I thought he would. Anyways, I mean, I really just need to see it 1 week with Matt Stafford and make sure the McVay thing was going to work. And I mean, it seems like it's going to work great. So,
Well, I tell you what, too, before you close this down with the power ranking, shout out to Austin, best kicker, best defense. Let's go.
Let's kicker, best defense, worst team.
Gotta have something to hang on to. So I think that kind of one last thing we just need to report before we end this segment off is the player of the week. And the player of the week this week, and in the future, I'll actually make a slide for it. I'm sorry. The player of the week this week was Amari Cooper for Kyler. So congratulations to Amari Cooper. He scored, I think, the second most wide receiver points this week. He scored like 26% of Kyler's points, and they almost got the W. So congratulations to Amari Cooper. I got to wonder, Katz, do we got anything else to talk about, or is this the end of the road?
I mean, not really. I mean, I'm sure I'm going to hear it from Eli because that's just how this goes. So
yeah, I mean, you are, and you deserve it.
Anytime he's moving up 4 spots and I'm moving down 5 spots after a first week in my own rankings, I know he's going to say something. So
yeah, you'll get something from the commissioner. I think kind of the last thing, if you would please unshare your screen for 1 second.
Yep.
I think the last thing that we need to do, and we don't need to spend too much time on this, but I think it is important that we preview our game of the week next week. And as you can see, it's already underway for Thursday Night Football. But we have the number 1 team in the league versus the reigning, defending, undisputed, unofficial champion of the league, Mr. TCam.
And official champion of the league.
He's the regular season champ, the postseason champ, and the unofficial champ. I believe, if I have my stats right, he's the only person to ever win a game with that distinction. I think. I'm not 100% sure about that. We're just going to say he is. So, obviously, we have TCam out to a little slight early lead with Sterling Shepard putting up 4 more points than Logan Thomas. But we don't really need to talk too much about what already happened on Thursday Night Football. We kind of just need to get a game pick from each of us and kind of talk about what we think each X factor is going to be.
Yeah.
First, Mr. Katzenberg.
So I'm going to go with Nick's team as the obvious pick just because I think there is a big glaring hole in TCam's lineup. Now, I know it wasn't super obvious last week, but I mean, you take a look at James Conner sitting there, projected 6.93 points going against Minnesota too. Minnesota, it's is that on? No, it's not at Minnesota, but I mean, TCam's going to need. He's really going to need Tyreek Hill to put up a lot of points, Russell Wilson to put up a ton of points, even Kareem Hunt to probably get in the end zone once. There's more things I can count on with Nick's team. They're like, I can count on Patrick Mahomes doing well every it'll be Sunday. I can count on DK Metcalf at least catching 1 deep ball. That will save his day.
God, you can tell me about that.
Really, the only thing I'm super concerned, well, not even super concerned with, is Miles Sanders. We'll see what kind of role he has moving forward. This was kind of like a perfect game script for Philadelphia last week. So,
and San Francisco's defense is pretty tough. Not to say that I'm going to just go against you for the sake of going against you. I just have a hard time picking against TCam. I mean, he's the champ for a reason. I think he's the most equipped team to beat Nick at full strength, just because he has Tyreek and that kind of masks what Mahomes is going to do. Mahomes really can't. If Tyreek is scoring like he's scoring more than Mahomes. Like he's outpacing him whenever Mahomes throws to Tyreek.
Just
So if it's a big Mahomes to Tyreek game, then that's advantage TCam just because, Tyreek's the one catching it. I would say the one reason I'm taking TCam is Kareem Hunt's going against Houston, and I know Houston won last week. I don't think Houston's very good. So I think that Kareem Hunt's going to get plenty of carries, plenty of opportunities to get in the end zone. And I think that James Conner is I don't want to say sneaky good play, but Minnesota kind of got torched by Joe Mixon last week. I think James Conner with mixed in could maybe go for he doesn't need to go for 20 points for TCam to win. But, James Conner scores a touchdown rush for 40 yards. That's +4 for him. Everyone else kind of stays the same. I think it's I think there's a lot of juicy matchups out on the table. And I'm just going to take TCam because he's the champ. And that's just kind of the way it is. But, I mean, you look at Claypool versus Vegas. Claypool could go for 20 and just ruin TCam's chances at winning.
I mean, already outscoring his projection by starting Shepard. So Shepard was his start.
Yep. So, I mean, we'll have to see. This is the game that we're most looking forward to this week. We wish we could have gotten Nick on today. He wanted to come, but it just wasn't in the cards for tonight. But we'll make sure to keep you posted on that game for next week. As for us, I believe that's it. Do you have any parting words, Mr. Katzpom?
No. Really hope my team doesn't suck this week. Kind of concerned.
Same for me. Shout out to Taylor Heineke. Shout out to Terry McLaurin. Let's go get the dub against Gavin. All right. Well, thanks again, folks, for listening to us babble on about our league. Hopefully, we'll hear from you next time. If you enjoyed the content, please like, share, and subscribe. We'll be coming at you next week at the same time. Deuces, and have a good night.